Hey guys, another beautiful day, another easy yummy meal using cheap everyday ingredients that you can find in your pantry. Today we're going to make some savory pasta. Let's get cooking. For this recipe, you guys, you're going to need some pasta, you're going to need some salt, some vegetable oil, and of course some water. For this recipe, I used fusilli. You can use any kind of pasta, even spaghetti would work just fine. Start by adding your pasta into the pot. Add some salt and some oil, and you pour water over it and bring it to a boil until the pasta is al dente. Alternatively, you can skip adding the vegetable oil during the cook, as you're going to drain the water anyway. You can add it at the end of your cook. I prefer olive oil over the other alternative vegetable oils. For the healthy girlies out there, you can use alternatives like the gluten-free pasta or the one made from lentil. I personally tried the one made from lentils. I didn't like the texture. I also didn't like the taste, and also it crumbled when I tried to make this recipe using it. Just a pro tip, you guys, you can save some of the pasta water when you drain it, just to use it as a thickener in your sauce. And also, don't forget to stir your pasta. And onto the chicken. These are some of the spices that I use to marinate my chicken. I've got black pepper in the mortar and tar. I've got 7 colors. I've got paprika and all the like. So let's start by cutting the chicken into smaller pieces. I personally used the chicken breast. You can use the chicken thighs. You can substitute the chicken with beef, but remember to use a tender cut on the beef because there's not going to be a lot of cooking time. You can also use some sausage. You can also use some ground beef as well. I had chicken in my fridge, so that's what I used. And also I removed the skin, as you can see, better than red meat. And so guys, whenever there's an opportunity to choose the healthier option, I think it's best to do that. With the number of cardiovascular diseases as well as obesity on the rise, the doctor in me would advise you guys to use olive oil as well as to remove the skin from the chicken. And if you're using a beef cut, try to use the leaner beef cuts, as well as try to trim off as much fat as you can. But the big girly in me would say otherwise, but you know, what can I say? It is what it is. And don't forget to wash your meat, you guys, before using it. And you can even use some lime when washing it, as the acid in the lime or the lemon will actually help tenderize the meat. Ultimately, the cut or the type of protein you decide to use will determine how juicy the meat turns out to be. Chicken thighs compared to the breast are generally more tender. However, they've got a higher fat content. So let's season our chicken. You don't need to necessarily use exactly what I used in my recipe. Everyone has got different spice combination that they love, so you can adjust it according to your preference. And obviously people have got different spice tolerance levels, so you can also adjust it according to your family's needs. People also have different health conditions that they have to live with, so you can adjust the seasoning according to that as well. For example, if you've got hyperacidity, you would want to go easy on the chilies as well as those very spicy spices. And also, if you're living with hypertension, you would want to go low on the sodium as well, which means less salt, which also means less spices with a high sodium content. You would obviously also want to forgo the already made marinades like the one I'm using in this picture, as they've got a very high sodium concentration. Anyway, my point is, you can use whatever it is that you like You can use whatever combination of spices it is that you prefer. You can adjust. There is no right or wrong way to do this. As long as it suits your needs, it's what's right for you. That we put into it. Let's prepare the vegetables for the pasta dish. I used some carrots, I used some peppers, I also used some green beans, then obviously the tomatoes and the onion. Remember, you can use whatever vegetables that you like. The more vegetables, the better it is. You can also add some mushrooms as well as baby marrow or zucchini. This will add some bulk to your pasta if you're trying to cut down on carbs. Most of the nutrients found in carrots, that is the niacin, the vitamin C's, the vitamin A's, are concentrated on the peel. So if you can get away with using the carrots without peeling them, that would be great. I peeled mine lightly just for aesthetics. For this pasta dish, generally we want to cut the vegetables a little bigger, want to leave them chunky so that they are not drowned in that pasta and you can see them. It adds to the color. As this is a one-pot dish, doing this also enables you to finish making the dish before the vegetables are overcooked. Not overcooking and leaving the vegetables a bit crunchy will also add texture to your dish. But don't worry you guys, if you don't like your vegetables chunky, it's okay to still cut them smaller. And if you're making this dish for your little bundle of joys that don't like to see vegetables in their plate, you could also consider blending the carrots, the green bean, as well as the peppers, broccoli, cauliflower, anything. You can hide a lot of greens into this dish. I also use some onions as well as some garlic for flavor. Remember, you can also use some fresh herbs, that is parsley, basil, and some thyme. I used some fresh tomatoes. You can also use some canned tomatoes. You can also use some tomato paste. You can use different types of tomatoes like cherry tomatoes. Those go really well with pasta. So whatever tomato you prefer is still okay to use. So to prepare the chicken, I added some vegetable oil into my pan and then added my chicken over medium to high heat and sauteed it until it was golden brown. If I were using beef steak, I would sear the meat over high heat for a few minutes and then remove it from the pan before I cook the rest of the vegetables so that it's not overcooked and becomes tough. So you just need to adjust the recipe a bit depending on whatever protein it is that you're using. Different types of meats, or rather different types of cuts, release different amounts of oil, so also pay attention to that. You can go ahead and start adding in your vegetables. I decided to add the carrots and the green beans first, as I thought those take the longest to cook. So depending on the type of vegetables that you have, you can adjust which ones can go in first so that you don't end up overcooking some of the vegetables. And remember, just like the meat, when you saute those vegetables, they tend to release more flavor. It's exactly just like the meat. If you say it first, it releases a lot of flavor. I'm curious to also know what you guys prefer, the chunky vegetables over the ones cut into smaller pieces. So let me know down in the comments what you guys prefer. I would also want to see if any of you guys do decide to recreate this dish. I want to see what you've come up with, so do tag me or post a picture of the finished products in the comments down below. I just want to see how you guys decide to recreate this dish, and if you decide to do it exactly like I did, I also want to see how you guys did. So yeah, tag me, comment down below, show me everything that you guys are going to do. You can go ahead and add your onions and your peppers. I used yellow and green peppers, the bell peppers by the way. And remember guys, like we said, the more you sear your vegetables, especially the onions, the more flavor they release. So make sure you do that until they're a little bit translucent. And then went ahead and added my garlic. I like to add it at the end of my searing of the vegetables and the meat because it easily gets burnt. So make sure you're a little bit careful on the garlic. I continued to mix for a few more seconds, then I added in my diced tomatoes. At this point, you can also add your tomato paste. You can also add the tinned tomatoes. Like I said, I only had the fresh ones, so that's what I opted for. Then you continue to mix until your tomatoes are ripe. They become soft and they blend in there very well. And also, you're able to use both the diced fresh tomatoes as well as the tomato paste. The tomato paste helps to give your relish like the good brown reddish color that is very appetizing. It's also very flavorful, so don't be shy to add a bit in there. And also, I know a few people that don't like chunks of tomatoes in their food, so grating the tomatoes is also an option, or you can just throw them in the blender, quickly blend them, then you use that for the relish. Cherry tomatoes also go well with pasta, so you can use those as well. So I then decided to start adding my sauces. I added some chili sauce. That is a Zimbabwean brand called Chiki Chili. It's very flavorful. Then I also added some soy sauce. The soy sauce will also give your dish a nice golden color as well as the flavor. I also added the Worcestershire sauce. I don't know if I said that right. Me and the sauce have got a relationship. It's not very pleasant. We don't know how to pronounce each other's names, so there is that. Then I started adding in some Nando's sauce. This particular one is one of my favorite. As you can see, I was running out, so that is me struggling to get the last few drops into my dish. So you can use whatever sauces you have. Steers also makes delicious sauces. You can use your barbecue sauce, You can use anything. Then I had to add a bit of water. I didn't have some chicken stock. That would have worked out even better. Then alternatively, there's this sachets that we usually use where I come from. It's like a freeze-dried stock mixed with some spices and a thickening agent, probably cornstarch. It comes in a sachet. You can add a bit of that just to thicken up the sauce. I personally didn't use that. I just left it to simmer until it thickened. And then went ahead and added my pasta. The less pasta the better, if we're being honest. Then I went ahead and mixed everything in. Just make sure you're mixing everything together well, so that all the juices from the meat coat the pasta. The amount of sauce to use is up to you guys. There's people that like to drench their pasta in sauce. That's okay. You just adjust your recipe. You add more stock. You add a thickening agent. I like to keep mine a bit dry, almost like a stir fry, as you can see. The cook is obligated to a mandatory cooking tax, also known as quality control. So don't be shy to do a tasty test. Clearly the testing was very much needed, because I discovered I needed to add a little bit of salt. I needed to adjust my seasoning as well. I added some freshly ground black pepper from my mortar and pestle. By the way, I usually crush it just before I use it. That way it's always fresh. And yes, the flavor from the store-bought already crushed one is very different. So that's why I freshly crush mine whenever I want to use it. So yeah, that is me mixing everything up. And finally, I added some dried parsley. If you've got fresh parsley, that's okay, you can add it there. If you've got green chives or green onions or shallots, they work well as well. You can add it at that time. Yeah, that is all from me. So if you do like this kind of recipes, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, share with your friends, share with your family, and also like for more. So let's go ahead and dish out a plate.